Hi everybody, welcome to this week's video blog. Today I want to talk to you about minerals and the importance when it comes to hormone balance, and that's because I think that minerals can sometimes be a little bit forgotten about when it comes to nutrients, but actually even though they are only trace minerals and you need small amounts of them, they are really important when it comes to hormone balance and lots of other processes in our body. Basically, they help our bodies to produce energy, so they work almost like an electric current in the body, being sent into different cells to do all sorts of different processes. And some of them are really important for hormone balance, so I'm going to talk about those today. Now, I have 5 in my list, but there are loads more, but these to me are the key ones you really need to focus on initially when you're looking at balancing your hormones and making sure that your body is getting everything that it needs when it comes to balancing your hormones. So the first one is calcium. Now, calcium is really important for making sure that you're helping to reduce the risk of developing osteoporosis when you're older, so really important for bone health and muscle health and things like that. But what a lot of people don't know is that calcium itself needs magnesium to help absorb it and to help regulate the levels, so the two of them work really closely together, and they're both really important for hormone balance. Now, like I said, really important for women's health generally, particularly as you're starting to go through the menopause and your body doesn't absorb calcium in the same way. It's important to make sure that you are also getting plenty of magnesium. Now, not only does it help with bone health, they also really help with reducing PMS. So symptoms such as digestive issues like bloating, constipation, but also things like mood swings and helping to promote sleep, and that's because they help to balance your progesterone levels out, and that's a really important hormone when it comes to making sure that you are reducing symptoms of PMS. So to make sure that you are boosting those progesterone levels, getting them at the levels that you want them to be during your menstrual cycle and just prior to that, making sure that you are getting plenty of calcium, plenty of magnesium will really help with that. Now, things that you'll find calcium in are things like dark green leafy vegetables, sardines, broccoli, things like that. It doesn't have to be a dairy source, and actually dairy isn't as absorbed, the nutrients from dairy are not as absorbed as well into your body as taking it in from a plant-based source. So I would always recommend going down that route instead. And magnesium, again, leafy dark green vegetables are a really important source of magnesium. And also they're really good for promoting liver health, which is important for regulating your hormones. But also things like nuts and seeds, things like beans, lentils, pulses are good as well. So think about getting plenty of those sort of plant-based foods in your diet. Now, the third mineral I want to talk about is iron. Now, iron is tested a lot when it comes to, when you're feeling tired, you're feeling weak, you might be getting headaches or short of breath. They're all symptoms that you might be deficient in iron. And iron related anemia is quite common, particularly if you suffer a lot with heavy blood loss during menstruation. So if you feel like you lose a lot of blood during that time, particularly if you have periods that go on for a longer period of time, so for example up to 7 days, 7-8 days some people do, and their periods are quite heavy, you may find that you are losing quite a lot of iron and therefore it needs to be replaced. Now, as you probably know, it's found in animal sources, things like red meat, seafood is a good source, but also vegetarian sources such as beans and dried fruit are good as well. So try to get those in your diet to help boost those iron levels. Now, the fourth one is zinc. Now, we talk a lot about zinc when it comes to fertility because it is really related in both male and female fertility or infertility. If you're struggling to conceive, it can be that your zinc levels are really quite low, and boosting those can really help that. But it also is related to PMS and a low sex drive. So if you're feeling like not really having a very high libido, and you're avoiding sex or just generally not feeling like it, then it could be that your zinc levels are low and you need to boost those. It's also really important for regulating your levels of stress. When your zinc levels are low, you may not be able to tolerate stress in the same way that you do normally, so it's important for that as well. That's quite an easy thing to get in your diet. Beef and lamb are good sources of red meat that have zinc in, but also things like spinach, which I like to put daily in a smoothie or have in a salad, and pumpkin seeds as well are a really good source of zinc. So again, not difficult things to get in your diet, but maybe just do a little bit of planning to get these things in and think about, you know, how you can include more of them. And the final one is selenium. Now, this is talked about a lot when it comes to your thyroid hormones, and it's important to regulate your thyroid, particularly as a woman as you're getting older, because your thyroid does tend to decline in health as we get older, and that is linked in some way to your to the menopause. When it comes to estrogen and progesterone balance, so making sure that you are getting selenium in your diet in quite small amounts, really. It's again, I say it's a trace mineral, you don't need a lot, is quite important. Now, you can get it in Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts is a really good source. In fact, a handful can give you over half of your RDA for the day. You can also find it in things like fish and turkey. So if you are eating those regularly, then you should be getting decent levels of selenium. So do include those in your diet too. Now, you know, I wanted to talk to you about this today because I do think that minerals are not talked about enough. We do need to be making sure that we are getting them in good levels in our diet. And it doesn't have to be that you have to take a multivitamin to do that. Like I've talked about and recommended lots of different foods there, which are quite straightforward and easy to get in the supermarkets and in the local shops. They're not difficult to include in your diet. You might just need to do a little bit more planning than you are now and thinking about, you know, what you're putting in your diet and why you are eating those things. So if anyone has any questions or comments on what I've talked about today, I'd love to hear them. Make sure you post them in the box below and let me know. And I will be back next week with another vlog.